This guy makes $400,000 minimum a month off of wholesaling homes. He doesn't even purchase the houses. Let's figure out how he's doing it on today's episode. Welcome to the Mark Pattison Show. I went from being a solo agent to selling over $1 billion in real estate in just 6 years. I flip houses, I run a portfolio of investment properties, and I help people like you create lifestyles they couldn't even imagine living. I'm going to show you how to make riches through real estate. Welcome to the Mark Pattison Show. All right, so welcome to Mark Pattison Show. We have Austin Zaback here from Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale. Basically going to talk everything wholesale, talk about residential retail. He's got a badass team. I've got a badass residential team, and we're just going to basically share ideas and whatever comes up.
100%. So, I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me. Your brand new office.
I know. Yeah. Sorry if it's echoey. It is brand new.
Yep.
We moved in probably like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So moved in and we actually built this out knowing that we're actually going to demo it.
Yep.
So it's kind of crazy. Put in $100,000 to basically demo it in a year.
Yep.
So once I get those permits, I'll be good to go.
You're scaling, man. You're going big.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. It's great to see. Phenomenal to see.
What was scaling the biggest thing is I saw on your Instagram, you posted, which if you haven't followed it on Instagram, definitely check you out. It's got a ton of content. But you have basically, it's like, hey, if you're not investing in your business, you're not scaling.
100%.
I saw your marketing bill. It's like 161,000 or something.
Yeah, for last month. Yep.
Yeah.
That was just one of my entities too.
Yes. Yeah. So how many different businesses, or what do you focus on mostly?
Yeah. So wholesaling was, a business that I did for a long time. So wholesaling is how I got into real estate. So for people that aren't familiar, wholesaling is where you're flipping the contract, right? You're getting a purchase contract with the seller, either direct to seller or to co-wholesale. You're getting from another wholesaler. And then you're just, instead of you being the end buyer, you're assigning it before you close escrow. So you're never purchasing the property, right? For people that don't, obviously, but so that was my first business in real estate. That's how I got into real estate about 7 years ago. And then I eventually obviously got my real estate license. And but wholesaling, I would say, is like the primary thing we do. And then now I'm looking at you and I want to do way more of the retail residential. I mean, I have 16 agents on my team, unlike my traditional team. And we'll do at least and again, we're in Scottsdale, which is expensive, but nothing like San Diego, right? So we'll do probably, 80 million or something this year. So not horrible, right? But at the end of the day, I want to do 500 million a year, on the retail. But we do like 30 or 40 deals a month on the wholesale. And then we flip, obviously, we're buying rental properties. We just bought like 2 more rental properties. I'm looking into start doing more like Airbnb. And then I want to just vertically integrate, dude. Now I want to go eventually, figure out other things that I can go and get involved in. Like you, I mean, you got 7 different things that you're doing.
Yeah. But all somehow related to real estate. That's what I love about it is I've never had a job longer than 6 months. So actually I was talking to Tom Ferry today and had a call with him and I'm like, he's like, well, what about real estate? I was like, well, there's so many different pillars that I can learn something new all the time. And in, traditional business, if you're at the corporate world, it takes forever for anything to implement. It's like, hey, I want to start an insurance company. Well, my clients that are represented as buyers here, now I can have them do insurance.
100%.
Now I have escrow. We don't do title here in California. It's a little bit harder to get into. Okay. It's not impossible, but our escrow is essentially when you guys talk about title in Arizona. And then we have what I'm starting out is lending. Okay. So kind of getting all the different pillars, but it's really to just create that service across the board and help my clients along the way, which makes it win for us.
Totally vertically integrated. Yeah. You're doing multiple facets of the real estate industry, essentially. And that's where, and then eventually it becomes, like you said, development, it becomes, owning a ton of property. It becomes, maybe multifamily syndication, potentially. Whatever that might look and feel like. Look at guys like Grant Cardone, Manny Koshman, the dudes that are really balling out. Yeah. That's the end all be all. You even Donald Trump, dude. You look at that dude, aside from just him as a business person, a real estate investor, he's a rock star.
Yeah. He's got a ton of investments. That's like Gary Vee as well. Yeah. He took it from being a wine, basically to his parents' business and then turned it into a rock star business. And now is doing developments, doing a ton of real estate avenues.
Yeah. It's insane, man. I think that's what every entrepreneur should do. That's listening. If you're, it's hey, people always, somebody asked me on the plane today, they're like, what should I start doing? I'm like, become an agent, become a wholesaler, and then just see where that takes you eventually. Double down on that for 2 or 3 years, and really get good at it. Join a team like yours, join a team like mine, and get the lead gen, get the transaction coordinator, get all this stuff, right?
Yep.
And master the craft. And then eventually, you can spread your wings and fly.
For sure. Yeah. It's the prove yourself. It's people want the instant, and I talk about it all the time, is becoming a millionaire is not hard. But no one wants to do the work that's prior. And it's not necessarily the work, it's the time.
Yep.
It doesn't just happen overnight. A lot of people ask me oh, I've got $5,000. What should I invest in? Yep. I'm like, well, and then also the thing is when these agents are making it big, we do financial Fridays with my team every Friday.
I'm like, don't spend your freaking money.
Yeah.
Like if you are spending money on shit you don't need, I'm going to freaking chop your head off. One of my sayings I say to them is you got to be a landlord before you own a Land Rover.
Yeah.
So
do you do any of the financial freedom stuff with Jennifer Weiner by any chance, or is
I do not? Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
But we do talk about, we do talk about kind of the same things. I think I gave her a book that we use for one of our calls.
Yeah.
And what we're teaching our agents is basically like, hey, you are going to have to save for taxes. You're going to have to set up an account for that. Before you even start getting leads on our team, you've got to have that tax account set up.
Sure.
Because when you go and you make 200 grand and the government goes and says, hey, you owe me 100.
100%.
Yeah. It's not super pretty.
I've done that the wrong way a million times.
Oh yeah. I still have problems doing it.
Oh yeah. 100%, dude. I've blown all my money so many times. Unbelievable. The IRS is like, I'm like, can I set up a payment plan? You know what I mean? Yeah. A million times. Yeah. I think you learn the hard way when you do it the wrong way and whatever, And so, but that's really cool, dude. Yeah. You got to like agents. Cause like there's a lot of people that can become an agent, and then there's like very few agents that'll be like a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's nothing wrong with just being a multi 6-figure real estate agent producer.
As long as you're investing or saving.
100%.
Yeah. Because if you want to be in that game, it's kind of like the waitress. It's like, waiter or waitress, but when you're 80 years old, it's not cute to be a bottle service girl.
Right. Yeah.
And you're making a ton of money now, but you got to think like take 2 steps back. And for all the youngins that are renting these super nice apartments and getting used to basically living the life that they can't truly afford themselves. Just because you have a badass view, if it's a rental, it's not your view.
100%. I couldn't agree more, man.
Like, I've got a buddy downtown. Sorry for calling you out. I'm not going to say his name. His rent on his 2-bedroom apartment is more than my $3 million house mortgage.
Insanity. Yeah. Insanity. Dude, I just submitted my 30-day, because I was living in an apartment recently because I moved out of a house and I moved into an apartment for like a year, and they tried jacking the rent way up on me. So I gave my 30-day notice yesterday. I still don't know where I'm going to go. Literally in 29 days from filming this podcast, but like I'm out because I'm like, I'm not going to pay that much.
No,
on principle, I can afford it, but I'm not going to pay that much. Like I'm just not going to do it. 100%, dude. Like I could go buy a deal with hard money but I own the asset. That's basically what I'm doing. I thought about it. I'm like, I basically have a hard money payment living in this apartment and I don't own the asset.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I could go literally use 11% interest only private hard money, buy a deal. And it's all going to interest, same as my rent, but at least now I own the asset. I would never do that, but you get the point,
Well, for hard money for my loan company, we can definitely get you better than that.
Better than 11. Okay. All right. I love it.
So hit me up.
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, I mean, when you're looking at it and you're missing out on the tax credits, you're missing out on writing off your interest. Basically, it's like there's a lot more. $2,500 or $3,000 or $5,000 in rent is not the same as $5,000 in mortgage payment. There's a lot of tax benefits to home ownership. So if someone brand new, I always advise them like, hey, you become an agent, save your money, buy a place. My first place in San Diego was a duplex.
Okay.
I did an FHA loan.
Love it.
I did $17,000 down.
Yep.
So a few closings. I sold a few, few homes, bought a place, $17,000 down, bought it for like 500, and people were like, "Oh, you're overpaying."
Yeah.
It's worth now 1.1 million.
Yeah. What year was that when you bought the duplex?
2015.
Amazing. Yeah. Right in San Diego too.
Yep.
Yeah. It's literally house hacking, right? Like, and I think people don't understand. So you rented the other unit out, I would imagine.
Yep.
Now you have them both rented out.
Both Airbnbs.
100%. Right. And so, dude, I love that. How's Airbnb in California?
So it's fine right now. So San Diego City has a proposal. It's passed, but they don't know how they're going to roll it out.
Okay.
It's 16,000 units currently in the city. They're going to chop it down to 6,000 units.
Got it.
So what they're saying is because we have a huge housing crisis, there's not very many homes to rent, et cetera. So they're going to offer permits to people that are in good standing, but you can only own one permit per person per home. So like my duplex, I'm only going to be able to have one unit as a rental. The other one's going to have to be long-term rental.
Wow.
So it's going to be,
So they're cracking down for sure.
We're going to figure that out. They don't have all the details lined up. So right now I have 5 Airbnbs in the city of San Diego. So I'm going to 1031 exchange it from one of my triplexes and wrap that into another building.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And it's a commercial building, which commercial, if it's zoned for hotel, it won't be regulated as much.
You're good to go.
So the building that we're actually in, this is the temporary remodel. We're hoping to do part Airbnb. So like kind of a new modern hotel where there's no staff. There'll be an entry window in the bottom floor, which is going to be a bar. And the bartender will be the hotel staff. And then there'll be an elevator up. And it'll be a boutique hotel that's all controlled on Airbnb, VRBO, any of the online websites.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I love that. I want to talk to you a little bit too. I know that we're kind of just going back and forth here, but I'm curious, and may as well just do it on camera. Like what was the reason that you EXP, right? Like I want to talk about EXP for a minute because I'm so fascinated. Like I was with the same brokerage for like 6 years. And then eventually I got pitched EXP in 2018. I said no. Got pitched in 2019 like 100 times, said no. Wish I would have said yes now looking back, right? And now I'm obviously a part of the company. And you've had a lot of success with EXP, and they're a phenomenal company. I mean, I was in Dallas at the event with Tony Robbins and Brent Gove and everybody. And that was an incredible event. You weren't at that event?
No, it was the one event that I was like, I need to stay home for a couple days.
Yeah.
So sure. I was actually home during that event.
Okay, because you're traveling all the time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was the biggest reason, like when you joined EXP, like what did you see? Like obviously there's a million things, but what was the biggest thing that you saw that was like of value?
Mine is I looked at all the top players, and not necessarily only in my city, but all around. Because a lot of people will say, oh, in my city, EXP isn't that big. But if you can learn from people, and I looked at my business, and most of the stuff that I learned how to do was from others in the business. It wasn't necessarily from my coach or from the coaching programs. It was, hey, we're sitting here masterminding. What's working for you? This is what's working for me. Let's swap some ideas.
Yeah.
And so through EXP, now there's really an incentive for it. But even then, the idea has been like passed along so much for sharing that you and I aren't even incentivized through EXP, but I'll share whatever because we're now connected.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. So that's just what's cool about EXP is like it creates an environment wanting to share. Because if you're at the other brokerages, and I'm not saying anything specific, but like Compass or KW or Berkshire, no one at that company has any incentive to help you out if you're in their office.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas with EXP, we do.
Collaboration over competition.
Yep. And if you look apples to apples, if you're just comparing brokerages, EXP is by far the cheapest of any.
Yep.
Even the flat fee brokerages, if you're a producer at EXP, because you're getting the money back in stock. So through it, I mean, I've made, I think $600,000 or $700,000 this year from EXP stock and rev share.
I believe it, dude. Yeah. My stock is going through the roof right now.
Yeah.
And I'm excited, dude. I'm just watching it grow. And I'm like, I'm never going to pull out. Like, I'm never going to literally sell any of that stock ever.
Well, I sold stock. I sold 500,000, I think.
Okay.
When it was at like $70 something a share.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
you nailed it.
Bought this building.
And then now you got to buy the dip again. It dipped. I think it's at like 45 right now.
Yeah.
So it'll eventually go back up. We already know. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
And I mean, you can opt in and have all of your stock purchased from your sales. So we can buy it at 10% discount.
Off. Yeah. Which is incredible, by the way.
Yeah. It's free money.
Like literally free money. And you don't even notice it coming out of your check. Like for me, at all.
One of my agents, he now has 50,000 in his account, but he had 70. He sold 70 he sold 70, bought his place, his first home in San Diego.
Wow.
From his stocks. And the cool thing is people always say like, oh, you can't sell the stock. I'm like, well, actually, you
totally can.
Yeah. There are stocks that you have to wait for vesting, but those are ones that are given to you for free.
100%.
The ones you purchase, you can sell.
100%. Yeah.
So that it was the collaboration, the stock and the rev share. When I moved over, I fully didn't understand completely.
I don't think I still do.
There's a lot of people that were a lot smarter than me. So I said, hell, I'm just going to go with it.
Yep.
And it's been for sure a benefit. And I came from a flat fee brokerage.
Yeah.
I was nervous. I was paying absolutely nothing. And I'm like, how am I going to go from paying nothing to having a 16K cap, to having all these fees? What am I going to do?
Yep.
Come to find out, I've actually I'm at like 515 in stock. I sold 500.
Yep.
And I've now at around 240,000 a year on rev share in actual cash. So that's not stock at all. Yep. So I'm over 1.3 million in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So it's about $100,000 a month.
What was dude, it's nuts, bro. Like what was your number one attributing factor to building like the revenue share model? I know it's not talked about a lot and I want to like talk about it more. Not from a place of, but just like pure like abundance and like, hey, anybody can do it. Right. Cause I hear a lot of people, like I had an agent, I'll give you an example that I brought him on, right? He saw the value of EXP, right? The revenue share in the stock was not a selling point for him. He just saw the value of the company. And I was like, perfect. The revenue share in the stock is just icing on the cake. Right. And he told me to my face, he's like, Austin, I'm never going to recruit anybody. He used this word recruit, right? He's like, I'm never going to recruit anybody. I was like, okay, don't worry. But like, eventually you'll attract people on accident. Right. And he's like, no, I promise I won't. I was like, okay, no worries. A month later, he calls me. He's like, hey, I got this girl. She's interested, blah, blah, blah. Can I set up a 3-way call? Right. And so I thought that was really fascinating because this was coming from a dude that literally said like, hey, I'm not going to bring anybody ever. Right. Like he's like, I'm shy. I'm an introvert. I'm not going to talk to people, blah, blah, blah. And he's now bringing people over and bringing people on board. Obviously you built a pretty large organization in like a pretty short period of time. What was like the attributing factor? That was it social media? Was it just sphere of influence? I mean,
so our team is built off of social media. So because the agents are incentivized through recruiting, but our team's kind of in the mindset of always wanting to recruit anyway. Yeah. So my team is built off of agents recruiting other agents. So I get a Friday report every Friday and it tells me what agents we hired, what agents we lost, et cetera. Very little on the losing side, which is great. And this week we hired 3 agents.
Yeah.
All 3 were from agents on our team that recruited someone.
Wow.
So it's a way that we built our team. We're at 87 agents in San Diego. And when someone brings someone on, they get to list them as a sponsor. And so then they get rev share and stock and everything from it. So my agents are actually super stoked on this. Plus we created a mentor program. So they actually become the mentor of the new agent.
That's awesome.
They're their mentor for the first 5 deals. They get a percentage of those deals as well. So it's a great way for them to learn. And it's also a great way for these people to recruit.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing is someone came up to me. He's actually from Arizona as well. Yeah. And he said, Mark, I follow you on social media. You're not thinking big enough.
Yeah.
And he goes, how many agents do you have? And I said, 15.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, so how much money do you want to make? And I was like, well, 2 million, you know, and he was like, okay, what do you have to have 2 million? So I told him the numbers. And then he said, so why do you only want to make 2 million when you can make 10 million?
Right.
I was like, well, I want 10 million. And he goes, okay, so you need to have 200 agents to make 10 million. So 200 is your new number. I want you to have 200 agents on your team by the next year.
Wow.
So
on the actual team.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are on my team. So when people with rev share and downline and all that stuff, I have 87 or 88 on my team.
On your team. Yep.
Probably 88 because I saw an interview going on. Yep. So 88 agents on my team. And that was from when I first joined EXP, I had 15.
Wow.
That's so incredible. I went explosive. Yep. Now the thing is like, you can have agents, but if you're not having them produce.
Yep.
So now I'm having a production coach. I'm actually interviewing him tomorrow. He's gone through a couple interviews with my team, and a production coach will take them from like their very first deal or getting their first deal to maybe their 5th deal and kind of be more of an on-site support versus just the mentor.
Yeah. Hands-on.
Because the mentors are out selling homes.
Sure.
And I don't want to bog them down. So 100%. That's how I'm going to kind of.
I'm working on that exact same thing right now. I'm a way smaller, but I already am noticing like bandwidth issues, even at my level, you know? And so I'm like, hey, I got to and I have a dude luckily on my team that he kind of wants to not focus as much on selling real estate and just helping other people sell real estate. So we're looking into the idea of like having him be more of like, you know, sales productivity coach, you know, type of role right now. So I think that'll be really valuable.
We came up with a bonus structure and kind of like, because they're bonused on, they have a base pay and then they're bonus on getting that, not necessarily their first deal, but it's getting their second and third in 1 month. So like if it's a 1 month period and they have more than one, they get bonused on both.
Got it.
If they get one in a month, then they don't get bonused on.
Wow.
So say there's 30 new people and we categorize it. So like anyone who's new or anyone experienced on my team, that production coach doesn't get bonused on their sales.
Gotcha.
Like he's not going to teach them anything.
Of course.
He's going to teach all the newbies. And we have 32 newbies who haven't sold a house yet.
Okay.
So his focus is on those 32 people. And then as we throw people in, he's got to coach them up.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. And so he's going to get bonused off of not the first deal that they do, but the second and third, if it's in 1 month.
Got it. Okay.
Because everyone can at least do 1 deal a month on our team. They should.
Of course. Anybody with the right, like, I mean, if you're committed to doing real estate, right? Like you should be able to get in and do real estate, you know? That's what I tell people all the time, for sure. You'll definitely have to start doing incorporating more of the wholesaling aspect into what you're doing. Yes. I don't know about you. So like for me, so what I'm training now, what I'm doing is I'm telling my traditional agents like, hey, because we do a lot of marketing, like a ton of marketing, right? And so we have sellers that are like, hey, we want to sell, right? And when we go on an appointment or we're more on the phone with them, as opposed to pitching them with one solution, we want to have all the solutions, right? So we're like, hey, you know, here we can list it, right? And here's the pros and cons of that. You know, it'll be, here's what we can net you, like here's your net number, and here's how long it'll take. Here's the pros and cons. You got to fix some stuff. You're probably going to fix the chimney, you know, blah, 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 right? And then here's our cash offer, right? And here's the pros and cons of that. We can close in 10 days. You know, you don't have to fix anything as is, no commissions, no nothing, blah, blah, blah. And like, so we go through all these different options and we just let the seller decide like, hey, what do you want to do? And so now I'm starting to build my team where, you know, you've got the acquisitions people on the wholesale and the agents and everybody working hand in hand.
Or being like, I want that deal.
Exactly. Yeah. One or the other. Right. So that's a culture thing, obviously. So I'm working on obviously having the right culture to where they want to work together, you know, and financially it makes sense for everybody. So obviously you're always figuring out new ways to pay people and stuff like that. But yeah, dude, like a world where, because I see so many real estate teams and brokerages that they're one trick pony.
Yeah.
Right. They do one thing. Yeah. Like there's a big, I almost don't even want to name names, but like in Arizona, there's a massive company right now, billboards everywhere. But they're, in my humble opinion, they're more of a one trick pony that only really works in a red hot seller's market, right? Like literally in a buyer's market, like they got to turn off their marketing, like entirely. Like they got to go from $1 million a month to 0, you know, because it ain't going to work. Right. Yeah. And so I definitely think like positioning yourself as a real estate entrepreneur to be able to do it all in real estate. Like, hey, okay, we can't do this or this. Well, let's get creative. Why don't we partner up on the deal, right? Why don't we do a revenue share? Why don't we do a profit share? Why don't we, you know, like how can we get creative and do deals? And also being able to pivot. Because if the market shifts at all and you got to be able to go and say, hey, if you're used to just being able to do the red hot market, list properties and have it go.
Mine was I have represented a lot of buyers. 87% of my deals are buyers, and everyone told me you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because when the market gets hot, well, I said, well, if I'm friends with all the listing agents, and I have 5 badass agents trying to get every listing, where I just bring them all the buyers. Well, 100%. Then as long as they're not double ending it, then I can usually get in.
You can, and they're very rarely. I guess you guys probably have more double ending scenarios than we do in Arizona. It's not as common in Arizona.
With the clear cooperation policy that NAR rolled out with, it's been, I believe, harder because you can't get a listing and not put it on the market.
Got it.
And you can't do like marketing it all to your database. You can market to other agents in your brokerage, but you're not allowed to market to like, hey, here's my mailer out. I left this property that's going to be listed on, in January, but do you want to buy it now?
Right. How does that work with wholesaling? If you had a property under contract as the buyer, do you have equitable interest like we do in Arizona to be able to market it?
We cannot if you're an agent.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
So I believe most wholesalers that I know here are not licensed.
Not licensed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they want to have an unlicensed person run the department.
Right. So yeah, you need a partner in the business, in the company. Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. It's definitely interesting to see California rules and regulations because eventually maybe you'll see that elsewhere too. We're not like that in Arizona right now. So we're kind of free flowing, but it could change at any moment. Right. And then we have to adapt.
When situations happen, then things get a little tighter and then, it changes all the time, but for sure.
You just adapt, dude. You got to be nimble. I tell people, I'm like, dude, be nimble, like be ready to move, be ready to like, at any given time, you've got to be ready to like change and move. And like, you see a lot of people that they just, if you don't move quick enough, you're gone. Like you're done for it.
Well, I always say like my done is better than your perfect.
100%.
So like, I have buyer guides and listing guides that aren't even perfect. And I still have my agents using them. And I'm like, I don't care. It's better than not like sitting there and just like overthinking everything. I always say to my agents too, I say overthinking will be the death of you. So if you're a smart person that's getting into real estate and you're an overthinker, we call you a high C, an analytic. Like you're probably not going to be the best person. You should probably stick to engineering because it's not black and white. And that's what I think Zillow encountered recently is they tried to apply an algorithm to a formula that's not black and white.
Right.
And you can't know the Zestimate. Zestimates aren't correct. I've seen Zestimates that are correct very little amount of time. But that's the kind of thing is you can't just apply an end all be all.
Not with real estate. It doesn't work. It'll never work. Right. Because, one house backs up to a main road. The next house has a railroad in the backyard, this house. And so like, you can't, a lot of times, dude, I got to go drive by a property to really look at it. Okay, well, there's a 7-Eleven right there. Like, what's this thing worth? What does that do to the property? And I don't believe anytime soon you're going to be able to have an algorithm that it comes accurate on any level. No. Sure. If it's a cookie cutter smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood with nothing weird about it, and there's a ton of activity, then an algorithm might get close to what the value of the property might be.
For sure.
But anything weird, they're not coming close.
Well, that's the same thing. Anyone wants to use price per square foot. I say, okay, so condo, 600 square feet on the first floor or 600 square feet on the 40th floor. Which one's worth more?
Right. 100%.
So that's the biggest thing I say. So price per square foot is not applicable. It is if it's a cookie cutter neighborhood, no views, everything's the exact same.
For sure. Yeah. And you're not going to get that all over the country all the time. You're just not,
And one may have a 3-car garage, one may have a 2, and it's the same square footage because you don't include the garage in it. So.
Dude, I've seen deals where the lot size is like 100 square foot too small for, a builder or developer to want to rip it down and build a new one. So like the house, it's like, okay, this house literally got torn down and it's selling for 1.3 because it's a new build, right? And there's another house that needs to be torn down. They want like 400 grand for it. And it's like, oh, the numbers work, right? I can build, but it's like, no, the lot is literally 100 square foot too small for that same builder that just did that new build to do this new build. Right. He doesn't want it. He's like, I can't build my product on that lot. Right. And it's like minimal. It's like these little bitty things you would never even know in a million years.
Or setback lines or the lots, maybe it's the same square footage, but it's too skinny.
Dude, it's long and narrow. It's a weird lot. The lot might even be bigger, but it's an oddly shaped lot,
Today's episode is brought to you by MarkPattisonRealEstate.com, my 6-week master real estate team course. My team was the first team ever to sell over 500 homes in a year in San Diego County. And I'm launching a course, and you can learn the fundamentals of how to launch a successful real estate team and implement proven systems and strategies that get you results fast. For more information, visit MarkPattisonRealEstate.com. Once again, that's MarkPattisonRealEstate.com.
Do you ever use a website called ScoutRed?
I've used it a time or two, but I don't use it often.
So it's funny as our tax records here in California, at least in San Diego County, don't show the right zoning.
Wow.
But ScoutRed does.
Really?
So for anyone that's in San Diego County, you can look up on your tax record and you'll see like R1-7. Well, if you go to ScoutRed, it'll actually tell you the actual
Wow.
what you can do with the property. So if it is a single family residence that you need to tear down, it'll say, hey, you can put 4 units, one per 1,000 square foot, of a lot land. But if it doesn't have that much lot size, then you can't do anything.
Very interesting.
So
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you should check your permitting or not your permitting, but your zoning for each one, and then check it against Scout Red.
Wow. Very interesting.
Different. I don't know why Scout Red's correct, but it always is.
Who knows? That's really interesting. And that'll work nationwide.
Yeah, obviously. I just know for sure for our tax record, but nationwide for Scout Red.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to check that out.
It's free. You can pay for the downloads and stuff if you want to download something for a listing appointment or look into more permitting and see what they pulled for permits. You can get that all off there. But it's awesome. When you do it, you do have to pay for each one. That's how you make their money. Yeah,
we use PropStream if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of because we skip trace. So when we do wholesaling, we have to get a lot of data. So data is expensive, so in Arizona, we'll buy 1 million records at a time and skip trace everybody because we're cold calling a lot of these people, we're texting them or we're, whatever we might be doing, but we need their contact information, right? Yeah. So data is really big and data is expensive when you do it at the volume that we're doing it at. We have 25 full-time cold callers in the Philippines that are calling 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, so we're dialing on average, 20,000 people per day, every single day, right? 5 days a week. So, we're hitting 100,000 people a week on the phone. So, data is a really big deal. It's a very expensive thing too.
Yeah.
And then those leads go into our CRM and then our acquisitions guys follow up with them, obviously. And then we convert,
Yeah.
So it's crazy where you go from being a nobody to doing it at the level that you're, but then you get to this level and you're like, man, I'm still playing small.
Yeah.
I still sit with dudes like you. I'm playing small. I told Marcus a little while ago, I'm playing small. You know what I mean?
Same way. I'm literally thinking, how can I roll off this program in a week?
Yeah.
When I'm in Portugal on vacation.
100%, dude. And I'm I need more integrators. I need more integrators around because I'm a total visionary,
Me too.
And I can integrate if I force myself to. I can sit on the computer and do what I have to do. But I hate it, dude. I hate it with my, at my soul, right?
Yep.
And so I'm I need more integrators constantly, and I have a really good team, luckily, but finding good people is tough. It's very difficult.
Yep. And talking about integrators, operators, all that kind of stuff. Biggest thing is rocket fuel or EOS system is what people know. So if you guys haven't looked at that yet, definitely look up EOS system. And if you have an integrator or if you're the visionary, which you and I are both visionaries, if I need to sit down, you said, I can implement, but by the time I'm done implementing, I've pivoted.
100%. Yep.
All right.
I'm not a finisher with implementing because when it comes to implementation, I've got another idea halfway through my first idea.
Yep.
So I'm already on to the next project. So I'm not ill-intended. I really care about that initial project. I'm moving so quickly mentally that I can't do it, know? Yeah.
And your energy is best spent on being the visionary.
It is.
And the biggest thing is, I always say with the visionary or anyone that you have a relationship with, make sure that the implementer, you communicate to them correctly. Because if you just spit ideas on them, they're going to hate you and quit. So I always say every Monday I've got my idea board and we're only going to pick 3 things. And then by Friday, we kind of get a report and see what's going on. And then we could roll back on Monday and I have everything in Trello.
Yep.
So everyone's got kind of a doing done board.
Yep.
So there's a major to-do list, which any ideas you come up throughout the day, you just email that email.
Yep.
And it puts it in the to-do board in your
that.
inbox.
Wow.
And then on your Monday meeting, you drag which ones to which person.
Yep.
And you color code it. We all use one account. So you could have multiple accounts.
Yep.
But this just makes it easy. You have one account and each person's color
coded.
I like that
a lot.
And then when they complete it, they move it to the completed file.
Yeah.
And on Monday, we look at it and then we clear it out.
Wow.
So we kind of see what we've completed, any questions you have, any things that are still on their list, why they haven't completed it, what issues they're having.
I love the system behind that. Yeah, for sure.
Because otherwise I'm all the time on them.
Yeah. 24 hours a day. That's what I've done over the year. Yeah. Dude, I'll walk into their office. Hey, got an idea. Hey, got an idea. Hey, got an idea, and they're probably right in the middle of a million things. They're we don't want to hear it, Austin, or they do, but they're, 100%. I'll have to try that. I've used Trello before, but never for that purpose.
Yep. It works great for that. I know a lot of people use it for checklists and it's same thing. It's free.
Yeah.
So 100%. I'm always wanting to watch my expenses and make sure that
I know, dude, it gets expensive, man. I was looking through the other day. I'm we use Slack and we use, obviously we have G Suite. Dude, I spend $1,000 a month on emails. Google G Suite.
I've Googled how do I get cheaper emails?
Yeah, literally.
How do I find cheaper emails because I'm the same way. I've got a ton on G Suite.
It's unbelievable. And the aliases you have and the different emails that you have, it adds up. It's I think it's $5 a user or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's actually more now. I think it's 6.
Okay.
6 or 7. I think they raised it.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. I looked at it, we spend $1,000 a month on G Suite. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Most people don't even use their freaking email. Unfortunately, right? You get agents that they don't want to work, they're lazy or whatever. And you have all these the overhead. It's part of running a business, obviously. But it's interesting for
That's
sure.
why a way to kind of get production in is we can't tell, obviously, if they're 1099 for us, we make them do, well, we don't make, we suggest they do a certain amount of points.
Yep.
So have you ever used Sisu for tracking? So Sisu is a great program. What we do is basically anytime they do something, leading indicators.
Yep.
So if you've read 4 Disciplines,
Yep.
it talks about leading indicators, lagging indicators. We only control the leading. So we only measure the leading. So it'll be like, hey, how many dials, how many conversations, et cetera. But we track that on Sisu, which is actually connected to our CRM. So when they're making dials or they're doing follow-ups, they can check like that they've done it. So we make every other month we do a contest. And the last one we did in October, we said, hey, you got to have 5 new conversations, 5 nurtures, 5 sphere of influence conversations, and 5 videos sent out to clients directly. Like, hey, Austin, this is Mark. Wanted to follow up on 123 Main Street. Hope you're doing well. I can go and show you a property this weekend, whatever. That counts as 1 point. I make them do 21 points a day.
Got it.
So at the end of the month, they have to have 441 points. It was 21 working days. And if they don't get 441 and they're in the baseline of our groups, because we divide them up into 4 different groups. If they're in the 2 bottom ones and they don't have 441 points, they're off the team. So it's kind of like this is what you get. It's called accountability. Get off the pot. Accountability. Like, so we do all that every month or every other month, because I don't want to make it too intense all the time. Like, and if you measure and over KPI them, so key performance indicators, it drives them nuts. It does. And so I want to make sure that they're like having fun with it. But also like, hey, I'm only doing this. I get their buy-in because I'm like, hey, we're only doing this to make it great. 100%. Because we want to be great. But we always lose a couple during that.
Of course. Yeah, you're going to.
Which is great.
Which is amazing, dude. I lost another agent like a day or 2 ago, and I was excited about it. I wasn't like, it was like, hey, like, yeah, I get it. Like, you got to go, like it wasn't working for either of us. I'm glad you called, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just part of the game. And then I immediately called my executive team. I was like, hey, I'll just recruit 5 more, no big deal. Right. So, and then 2 of those won't work out, and that'll be 3. Right. But then you just keep going, man. You just keep on going. I think that it takes a lot of grit, a lot of resilience to be an entrepreneur. I've been at this for a decade now. Take your emotion level down because you have no emotion, because literally it's just black and white. You don't care. It's just numbers. I mean, I care about people a lot. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it's simple. If you're not producing, you're not producing. Right? Oh
yeah, for sure. And the cool thing is, like, with our culture, like, we have a strong core values. We got a good mission statement, and we hire to our core values. And my coach was saying, he's like, hey, the reason why your team is doing so well is, like, compared to all the other teams I coach, is because your core values are so prevalent and you follow them and you hire to them. And it sounds corny when you're like speaking core values and stuff, but it works.
It totally works. Does. Yeah, I always tell people it's a human being that you hire. Like, because we were doing an interview the other day, and they were like looking at like the resume and this and this and this and this. I'm like, talk to me about the person. And my team's like, what are you talking? I'm like, what do they like doing for fun? I'm like, what's their faith? I'm like, what do they do on the weekend? I'm like, are they married? Are they single? Like, I'm like, tell me about the human being that we're about to hire. Right. And they're like, so focused on the accolade or on the whatever. And I'm like, I don't care about any of that. Right.
They're probably not even real.
Right. I'm like, tell me about the person. What do they like? Who are they? Right. If somebody's broke down on the side of the road, do they keep driving, or do they stop and pull over and help them change their tire? Like, what kind of person are they? Right. Because that'll be the make it or break it if they're going to actually come into our organization and help us build and scale and build a foundation. Right. And not just like come in for 3 or 4 or 5 months and then dip out when things get hard.
And that reminds me of one of my agents sold a property for a lady, and she came into the house, was an older gal. My agent, she's young. She went in and the gal had messed herself. My agent cleaned her up.
Oh my gosh.
And she comes in, she's like, I just cleaned shit off of a client. And I'm like, that's the type of agent I want. The one that'll do anything for the client.
100%. And that's what it's all about, dude. You have to do that. Like, because if you're that type of human being, then you belong in a culture and environment where it's growth oriented and people want to scale and grow and evolve. Because I've built cultures before where it's not like that, and it just doesn't last. It's not sustainable. Unfortunately,
I always want like a win all, be all, everyone help everyone.
Right.
Raise your hand if you have any questions. There's no stupid questions. Because the biggest thing is when I wanted to create an environment when I did not have when I started real estate. So this is something for like the people that are joining or getting their license or wanting to get into it. Culture and the type of team, there's a huge difference between every team. Like, do your research, because where you're going to be and be around, they're going to be your best friends. Like, literally, it's the only people you get to hang out with because you work so much. But I had a place where I asked a question and the broker looked at me and said, in front of everyone, and I was a new agent, he said, don't ask stupid questions.
Wow. Yeah. Horrible environment.
I was like,
horrible culture.
Cool. Oh God.
Yeah. Just listening to you say it out loud, I can already tell. I can literally visualize what his culture looked like.
And I said, my rule was there's no stupid questions, just stupid people.
For sure. Right. Exactly. No, but for real, dude, like you got it. You have to have a culture where you embrace. I told somebody the other day, I'm like, look, like ask for forgiveness, not permission. Right. Like just do it. Like I don't, just do it. I'd rather you take initiative and do it than call me every single time before you're about to take action.
Yeah.
It's like that's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get me anywhere. It's kind of a waste of time for everybody. I was like, if you just do it and then you make a mistake, then we can talk about it, right?
Yeah.
We can figure out, where did you go wrong? Why did you make that decision? How could you have done it better? Blah, blah, blah. And then you won't do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you do it again, then
we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like, how can we keep making the same mistake over and over again? But most of the time they don't, right? Because they actually learn, they actually understand how you operate as a leader and as a visionary. And so they start to eventually you can get a good integrator to think somewhat like a visionary from the standpoint of putting themselves in your shoes before they make decisions. So they're not like a visionary, but they're able to eventually, once they know you well enough, like I have girls that'll put themselves in my shoes and they'll kind of try to think like me. Like, well, what would Austin do in this situation? Would he do this or would he do that? And typically they're right about it, whatever it might be.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, and empowering people to fuck up.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you're not fucking up, then you're not trying.
100%.
The only rule I have is ethics. Like you cannot be unethical. You can't treat people wrong. Like if you are doing the right thing and treating people right, I don't care.
That's it.
Like if we mess up, you mess up. That's what E&O's for. Knock on wood. We've never had to use it before, but that's where I focus. And I tell my agents, I'm like, dude, just lead as a good person and help people. And that's how you get sales done. If you're in a listing appointment and you can like say, hey, how can I help this person the best way?
Yeah.
You're going to get the listing.
100%.
Like that's all they need. They need to move from point A to point B.
Yep.
How do we make that happen? How do we eliminate stress? How do we eliminate the headaches?
How are you providing value to them?
Yep.
Right. It's all it is. It's all they care about. They don't care about, at the end of the day, it's just value.
Yeah. Your 31 point marketing plan or that.
They don't
shit,
care about any of that.
Matters.
Dude, I honestly don't. I barely use a listing presentation.
We do all pre-listing.
100%.
All of our stuff is all pre-listing appointment. This is our value add. If you have any questions for sure, but we're here to basically talk about the numbers, talk about your schedule. We bring out a calendar for the close and say, hey, you need to be in Phoenix by this date. Average days on market is 14 in your place, in your neighborhood. You got to do a 30-day escrow. And we just basically count back calendars and we say, any questions before the paperwork?
100%. That's it.
They always sign.
100%. Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, it's this. This is how you get, I tell my agents, I'm like, dude, if you want to sell more real estate, just focus on the person.
Yeah.
Not the real estate. Like, get your mind off the real estate. I'm like, who are we talking about here? What's their favorite football team? What do they like to do? What kind of dog do they have? Where are they going next? Why are they moving? Why are they selling? Like, get to know the person and then just solve their problem. Yeah. Just build rapport with them and just solve their problem. They don't care about your accolades. They don't care. Like, none of that matters. They don't care if they don't care if your commission is 2.5% or 3% or 4.5%. It really doesn't matter. They say they care, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Like, you just don't have enough rapport with them. Is what I tell them. Like, you don't have enough rapport. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter. I'll come in there and get a 7% listing because I have the rapport with them. Yeah.
I agree. There's a girl on our team that gets 7%, if not 6%. And in our market average is 5%.
Right. 100%.
And sometimes even less now. We're getting in where it's like 1% and 1%.
Yeah. Nuts, dude.
Which that just means they have zero idea how to build rapport.
Right. That's all it means, dude. They don't. They have no idea how to sell who they are, which at the end of the day is rapport, right? It's like, selling yourself doesn't look like selling a car. You've got to build this relationship. You go to a bar and meet a new girl, if you come across too strong or too aggressive, it's not going to work, right? You've got to really sit there and build the rapport up. You've got to talk to them. What do they like? You've got to compliment them very subtly. You've got to figure out, like, you've got to be intentional about it, right? Same thing in real estate. Same thing in sales. You can't just come in aggressive, like trying to, like, it ain't going to work,
I love it. Well, dude, seriously, with the all the wholesaling, you've inspired me.
Dude, I appreciate it, man.
I will give you everything to do the residential retail side. I'll become the wholesale flipper.
Yep. And I'll help you, dude. Everything you need.
That's
and then before we hop off, so I met you at a comedy event. Okay, and I'm curious on here. Dude, you were incredible. So and I won't go into detail, but you knocked it, in my humble opinion, you knocked it out of the park, right? And afterwards I walked up to you and I was like, dude, you knocked it out of the park. And you told me, you're like, dude, I've never done that before, right? Like, that was my first time. Like, I got invited. I said yes, blah, blah, blah. Dude, honestly, I would like to consider myself somebody that says yes to just about anything. That's one thing I don't know I would do, bro. Like, how did you get the courage to do that? What I mean?
To be honest, my dream in life, I think, has always been to be an actor, not necessarily for celebrity or Hollywood. Like, I don't watch TV, I don't watch movies, which is weird that I would want to be an actor.
Yeah.
But in high school, I was an actor and I was like, I always loved it, but I always found out, or I always realized the failure rate. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm not doing that. So I've turned into, I've always been known as a funny person.
Yeah.
So being funny though, and doing stand up where you got to memorize a script, deliver, have punchlines, it's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And it went well. Definitely was one of those things I've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so when she asked me, I was like,
you have to do it.
Screw it, I'm gonna do it. So then I wrote all these jokes And then after, like when I got there, I was like, oh man, a lot of my jokes are inappropriate.
Yeah.
Who's attending this event?
For sure.
It's like a charity event for children.
Sure. Right. Yeah. No, I don't think it was, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But still, well, it was a charity event actually. No, but no children were not there. Yeah. But that's what I was just like, you know what? If I can do this, and it's funny, is like when you put yourself in those types of situations, it makes you a stronger leader. Because if you're up there doing stand-up and you're making yourself vulnerable, you're putting yourself in the situation that your agents are feeling when they're calling leads. Yeah. For us, I'm not vulnerable when I call a lead because I'm just like, what's up? This is what you need to do. Hey, when can I see the house? Perfect. Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah. You've done it a million times.
There's zero, but when you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, it makes you grow. And I feel like stand-up for me, it was by far the biggest like growth. Another thing that I did, which was absolutely crazy, was like 5 years ago or so, I ended up, I was a volunteer for Big Brothers Big Sisters. Okay. I ended up, through long story short, ended up becoming a person on the United States roller derby team. Yep. Because my little brother was in roller derby and he was like, you should do this. Yeah. And I knew how to skate really well. Roller derby turned me into the person where I didn't care when I went on a listing appointment or met a new client, because it was like, shit, if I can get thrown up against the wall by a 300-pound dude that's like punching me, I can do anything. Yeah. And so it's weird if you're not putting yourself in uncomfortable positions where you're growing.
You can't grow.
Yeah, you can't grow.
Wow. I love
so
that.
I don't know. It's something with that. But stand up is something where you like, dude, you turn into like a different person.
I'm telling you, bro, like I've jumped out of many airplanes in my life. I've done every extreme thing you could possibly imagine. I've spoken on stages. I've spoken on Zoom calls with thousands of people, but stand up, bro. I tell you what, if I ever got invited to that, I would have to think long and hard before committing to that. That's one thing. And not because I don't think I have the courage to go do it, just because I have to put a lot of planning into that to deliver.
I had I think a week, but I started watching all the Netflix shows and figuring out what's the best way to deliver, how to land a joke. And I kind of had it naturally. I can understand timing, but a lot of my humor is through situational. Sure. And so it's well, how do you bring that to the table?
You bring the context.
Yes.
Yeah. And how do you have to tell stories? You got to give them context to what's happened, why it's happening, what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was overall, thankfully, a lot of people came up to me and said I nailed it. So I was glad with that, but man, I was nervous.
Yeah, I bet, for sure. Well, I appreciate you telling the story on camera.
Yes,
yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you having me, man. Yeah, I'll definitely help you with wholesaling. You help me with traditional, and hopefully people get some value from this.
For sure. Yeah. And hit us up. Where can we find you if we need to message you? Can I get the details?
At Austin Zaback on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, wherever.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's it, man. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it, brother.
All right. Thank you for tuning into the Mark Pattison Show today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please download so you can refer back. If you like this content and want to continue receiving real estate education for free, head over to your computer, scroll all the way down to the section after the episodes on the podcast, and select the 5 stars. If you're willing to commit to transforming your business, please visit my website, markpattisonrealestate.com. We've created a community of real estate professionals where we give back and share tips on how to succeed. Visit markpattisonrealestate.com. And remember, if you're not fucking up, then you're not trying.